the one, the only, Frankie Cartoscelli. Good morning, Frankie. How are you?
Good morning, guys. That sounds pretty unfortunate for Dave. Leaky eye, man. So
Yeah.
doubtful with leaky eye.
Yeah, I think he's out. He's not playing tonight. But,
Leak management.
Yeah, hopes to be back by the next game.
Hey.
You're healthy, though, right, Frankie? We can count on you. Everything's good with you?
Oh, yeah. I'm not listed on the injury report. I'm a full go. I got a good night of sleep. I'm feeling fresh today.
Good. On that note, too, by the way, I haven't seen anything, and forgive me if I miss. Is De'Aaron okay for tonight?
Well, we're heading down to practice or shoot around in about a half hour or so here, and I think as soon as you walk in that door and you see who's on the floor, I mean, the Kings are not going to push De'Aaron Fox at this point in the year, and we all know hamstrings are tricky. I think the fact that I did see him tweak it at the end of the game, and he finished the game. It wasn't anything too serious, and I don't think it is anything too serious, but with the game coming up on Thursday and the 2 off days tomorrow, it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see him out there tonight, but we just don't know the severity of it yet, but we should know him within the next hour and a half. But, hamstrings are tricky, so it'd be surprising in my opinion.
Sactown Sports Kings insider Frankie Cartoscelli joining us from the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Frankie, Coach Brown was looking for a lot of different guys to maybe spark the Kings this past game against the T-Wolves. One that we've been talking about all morning is Kessler Edwards. Is he a guy you think that might start cracking the rotation, getting a few minutes?
I think at this point in the year, I mean, you have to try different things out, and that's exactly what Mike Brown did. The Kings just have not been able to find a group that can get stops when they need them, and Kessler Edwards really did a good job of, I don't want to say locking down Anthony Edwards, but he really did take that aspect out of the game late, and Mike Conley was really the guy who kind of got going late, and he scored 10 points in the fourth and kind of helped put the game away, but Kessler Edwards did a really good job on ball defending Anthony Edwards, and when you look at someone who's 6'7", 6'8", and has a 6'11" wingspan, the Kings have needed a player like that to come in and make an impact. And I just think when you see the Kings, how they have been in the buyout market, how they didn't make any trades at the deadline outside of Kessler Edwards, I don't know if you can see any help on the horizon here as we get down to the couple last weeks of the year. So I think that he, in my opinion, deserves an extended look. I mean, the Kings are playing Brandon Ingram tonight, and Ingram is very capable of giving the Kings a tough time. And that's an ideal matchup, in my opinion, if Harrison Barnes and Keegan Murray are unable to slow him down, and that's someone that you have on the bench that you can throw at a player like that, of high scoring forward. And the Kings need more impact defenders like that, and that's the one they have this year, and maybe that's the one they can build on next year and the years down the road. But I really liked what I saw from him. I think that he's definitely earned a couple more minutes here and there.
And Frankie, something we brought up earlier in the show is the Kings defense, because I know Mike Brown did say it, as we talked about earlier, that he didn't feel the defense was good enough going into the postseason to do what he really wants them to do. But I wonder about the league. I just look around every night. Seems like, the Dallas game yesterday, the Kings game, the Bucks Sixers the other night. Most of these games are in this 120 to 130 range. The Kings, what they do best is their offense. How concerned should they be about their defense, or do they just need to win some of these games that they end up falling short? Or are they just coming up short on the offensive execution end of things?
Yeah, I mean, there are some games in there the Kings have pulled out late, and maybe it's not because of lockdown defense, but I mean, you're looking at the second highest scoring game in NBA history. The Kings were able to get stops literally when they needed them most. I mean, Los Angeles' worst offensive stretch of the game came down the final minutes of double overtime. Could that have been because of fatigue? That surely could have been a factor, but there are some games in there to look at the schedule where the Kings have gotten some stops and they need them. But I mean, obviously there's more times than not where the Kings, they've lost 26 games this year. I think a majority of those are because they have struggled to get those consistent stops. So it's something that, I mean, I think it's definitely something you can be concerned about. But I mean, like you said, the NBA right now is just a high scoring league. And of course, games change in the postseason. We see defenses really lock in the playoffs. I mean, just being on the outside, looking at other teams over the past couple of years, by past couple, I mean 16, watching other teams in the playoffs, the defense is different. I mean, the gameplay, the game speed is different. And they play Phoenix and Milwaukee for 3 straight, arguably their toughest 3-game stretch of the rest of the season. So that's going to be a stretch to keep an eye on, because the Kings, they're going to play some really tough, high-level players, and they're going to have to get some stops late in the game, kind of like we saw against Anthony Edwards. And they did a good job of containing Edwards down the stretch, but it's the other guys that killed you, and that just can't happen.
Frankie Cartoscelli joining us. Frankie, me and Jason have been talking about Trey Lyles a lot this morning. At this point, would you say he is the best Kings backup center?
Yeah, I think that there are some things you see from other players. Like, Chimezie Metu has had his moments this year, and I think he did a good job of. He had a couple of good possessions, rebound the basketball the other night. Obviously, he's a rim runner. He's someone that can be a lob threat. But what Trey Lyles brings, the physicality, like you said, just the consistency, which is a really important word in my opinion when it comes to the Kings and in that avenue is the backup center consistency. The Kings have not had any consistency. They're finding it in Trey Lyles, and someone that can play 4 and 5. Even though he dropped some weight in the offseason, he added some muscle, and he's a lot stronger down the post than some people realize. But the stretch aspect too. I mean, he's able to knock down threes and be a threat from the perimeter, and that's huge to me. I mean, and that's something that not many teams have, a backup 5, which we're calling Trey Lyles in this situation, that can be a threat from 3. And it just really comes down to, again, I have to highlight it again, consistency. The Kings have had some consistency from Malik Monk as of late. Trey Lyles has been that other guy that has been huge for this team. And if this team's going to make a run here in the playoffs, they need to have more beyond the starting 5. And Trey Lyles is a guy who's been huge for this team all season long. Someone who I wouldn't mind seeing back next year. The Kings obviously will have to make those decisions this offseason, but someone who's on a $2 million team option. I mean, he's playing himself into quite a big payday this summer. But yeah, he's been huge for them, and something I wouldn't mind seeing at the stretch 5, or at the backup 5 as the season concludes.
Frankie, a couple of times this year, Coach Brown, publicly at least, and I'm sure privately, has had to do a couple reminders to Keegan Murray. One, just encouraging him to be more aggressive. We've seen him talk about him putting the ball on the floor a little bit more. You think he has another talk with him? I mean, it's only one game here that stuck out, the last game, but he had been playing pretty well, but just 20 minutes, 2 shot attempts, no points. You think there's another Coach Brown, Keegan Murray conversation coming up?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I think that Keegan knows and Mike Brown, they both know that one game shouldn't diminish the progress he's made, and I think that he's had a good stretch overall. But he's still a rookie in this league, and it was a night that Kevin Huerter, like we've talked about before, the Kings have had so many big nights from different players on any given night, and it was Kevin Huerter's night. He scored 29 points. He was getting a lot of looks from the perimeter, and Keegan kind of became a footnote. I mean, Harrison Barnes had his 3rd straight 20-point game. De'Aaron Fox, the streak he's been on. Domantas Sabonis has been scoring a lot more lately. I mean, he's not really a 20-point scorer. I mean, he's close, I know, but he's not someone that you expect to go out and get 20-plus every night. It just has been kind of one of those situations where he's kind of fallen into the background. But the Kings could need him coming up against a team in New Orleans who they're shorthanded, and their defense is very middle of the pack. New Orleans is a very league average team around the board. I mean, their record, their offense, defense, what have you. So the Kings should look to bounce back and get their offense, even though it hasn't been a problem, just getting that starting 5 really rounded out, and Keegan's a huge part of that. And I'm not concerned at all. I think that Mike Brown, he knows what he has in Keegan Murray. He knows that he's answered the bell every time that he's challenged him. And I think if he wants to put a little bug in his ear and see if he can get a little giddy up in tonight's game, I'm sure that'll happen.
Frankie, how important is this game tonight for the Kings to get that W at home, especially with this really rough 3-game stretch coming up after it?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that people like highlighted, and it's a good problem that the Kings have been good on the road, but the fact that the home and road records are so similar, I don't want to say concerning, but it just kind of makes you a little disappointed because of how Golden One Center is night in, night out. I mean, the atmosphere, and something Anthony Edwards has pointed out how much more fun it is to play in Sacramento because of the atmosphere. They need to, I think I agree, Jay, they need to take advantage of these opportunities. And New Orleans is a team that is shorthanded. They've lost 5 of 6. It's another one of those instances of the Kings need to beat teams that they quote unquote should beat. And beating New Orleans is big for a couple of reasons. I mean, it's another team to put in the rearview mirror. I mean, the Kings have all but put the Clippers in the rearview mirror. I mean, the Clippers are, I think they're 6 games back in the loss column right now. You can put the Pelicans 8 games back in the loss column with the win tonight. And that's the biggest thing for the Kings who hope to avoid the play-in. I mean, the play-in, that aspect of being in a 1-game situation, we all know how stressful that can be. The Kings have played too well, in my opinion, to be a 7, 8, 9 seed. They need to be top 6, and they're on the road to doing that. But to do that, they need to take care of business. They need to win a game. They should win tonight. And looking at their schedule, I mean, there hasn't been many losing streaks this year. I mean, the Kings haven't lost 3 in a row since November, which is something I didn't realize until just a few minutes ago. And that just shows how good they've been at bouncing back when they need to. That's why they've been a good team this year. They are able to answer the bell and win games they should win. Tonight shouldn't be any different, especially with Thursday looming. You're playing a red-hot Knicks team. So Pelicans are no slouch. We saw the Kings lose by 30 points to the Pelicans a very similar Pelicans team about a month ago. But it's just something the Kings do. If they want to prove they're a top 4, top 5 team in the West, here's another test for them tonight.
Yeah, on that standings part of it, Frankie, better chance you think of the Kings catching Memphis at 2 or Phoenix catching the Kings?
I think maybe a little bit of both. I mean, I think that Phoenix for sure is someone. I mean, they're a team that I wouldn't be surprised they finish top 2, top 3 in the West. But Memphis is not. The Memphis Grizzlies right now are not the same Memphis Grizzlies that have played 75% of the season. We don't know what's going to happen with Ja Morant. I mean, the Grizzlies were saying yesterday that he could be out indefinitely. I saw people saying on Twitter, again, this is not anything confirmed, but I mean, it wouldn't be surprising to see if he was out for the remainder of the season. I mean, just thinking about the gravity of the situation and what happened, I mean, it made me wonder what would happen if a Kings player did something similar. I mean, I think that it would be a very quick, swift, be reprimanded very quickly. I mean, imagine if DeMarcus Cousins did the same thing years ago. If any other player on the Kings did something like that, I just am wondering, because of the aspect of where the Grizzlies are and who Ja Morant is, it's just kind of more of a lenient punishment. But if a harsh punishment is brought down and he is suspended for the rest of the season, I think the Grizzlies falling out of the top 3 or top 4 is definitely something that could happen. But we just don't know. But point is, the Kings can only worry about what they can control, the games that are in front of them. And right now they're winning more than they're losing. That's most important. But got to limit these streaks. And the Kings losing 2-3 in a row here, that could ruin your place in the standings very quickly. And with only 19 games to go, the Kings are they're up against it. So tonight I'm excited to see what they can do and see if they can bounce back and facing the team that's missing a lot of players. And it's another good test for the guys.
For sure. Well, Frankie, we look forward to following your stuff again tonight. Thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
I hope you guys cut out, but I just cut out.
We're here, Frankie.
Okay, I heard it cut out. I'm not wondering if is Dave interfering because of the weak guy?
We had actually given you the winning lottery numbers, but it was a one-time offer. Sorry about that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, well I'll play it back on the YouTube. Don't worry.
There you go. Thank you. That's Frankie Cartoscelli joining us, our Sactown Sports Kings insider. Yes, tonight the Kings and the Pelicans. When Jay and I come back, we will take a closer look at that game